So recently I was talking to an old friend of mine, Vivek, on phone, and he told me that a few things have gone terribly wrong in his life. One of those things was that his H1B petition was wrongfully denied for extension. It was nothing but a clerical error by the USCIS officer, and that issue is in the process of being resolved. However, there are many such things that can go wrong with people. And in fact, Vivek and his family were really struggling with some serious issues other than this. And that got me thinking, what are the real fears? What are the worst fears of Desis in the US that often come true? Because some of those fears that I'm going to tell you have also come out to be true for me personally. The first fear is unable to recover your investment costs in your education. I have been in that position myself. See, once you come to the US, you go to a university, you are actually contributing to the American economy. In fact, there are some countries such as Australia where education industry is a huge part of their economy. In the US, it is not all that different. People from around the world pay heavy tuition fee. People spend a lot of money to come to study in the US. Although I myself had full scholarship both for my master's and my PhD, but I had undergraduate loans to pay off. When I graduated with my master's degree, I had 4 job offers, and all those 4 job offers were taken back because of the recession situation in 2008. If you graduate from an American university, but if you do not have much work experience, that degree from the US or from any country for that matter is not going to count for all that much. You need industry experience to go for higher end jobs. Because without work experience, a master's graduate and a bachelor's graduate are more or less the same. Fortunately, I got a temporary job after my graduation and then I transitioned towards the PhD program. However, not all people are all that lucky. There are people who come to study here, spend a lot of money and then go back with lot of debt, lot of loans. And that is a very unpleasant and tough situation to be in. Especially if you have spent money on a non-STEM degree. You cannot work in the US for more than 12 months. Even if you have a job, you cannot continue if you do not get picked in the H1B lottery system. And therefore, it can be very tough situation if you have to go back after having spent a lot of money and not recovering it through your salaries. The second worst fear that people have is that their circumstances force them to go to a lot of these Desi consultancies. These Desi consultancies are notorious for being dishonest, and a lot of them have had action taken against them. What unfortunately happens is that your salary gets eaten up by middle layers. And not just that, when you are not actively working on a project with a particular client, you don't get paid by that Desi consultancy at all, and that is actually not legal. I hear that situation has been improving and the laws are being enforced more strictly, but this is one of the worst fears that people have, is that they being forced to go to Desi consultancies to get their H1B visa. And I have had quite a few friends who had taken that route and then they had to suffer a lot as a consequence. The third terrible fear is having an abusive work environment where your employer knows that because of your immigration situation, they can exploit you to the worst and still not have any consequences. Because what happens many times is that, without naming the company, I had a person reaching out to me asking for suggestion for career guidance a while ago, and his situation was that he was in a company that was very specialized in particular type of product, okay, and then very few companies, in fact maybe 2 more companies in the US do that. Having known this, his boss was exploiting him like anything. His boss knew that if he left my job, if I fire him, he will be ruined. And that is where people are exploited by making them work for longer hours and they do not get adequately compensated for the work that they do. And not just that, if they lose their job or even if they get laid off, finding an alternate job within such a small time frame can be very hard. Primarily, this is a reason for worry because you have very limited number of days. If I'm not wrong, you only have around 60 days to find alternate job and then you must return to your country. The fourth fear is to do with inability of people to grab better opportunities because of their family and visa situation. Now what happens many times is that husband and wife somehow are able to find a job more or less in the same geographical area, and then husband or the wife gets a much better opportunity, but then they must leave the location and move there, but they're unable to do so because their spouse will not get the same or similar kind of job in that new geographical location. What do you do then? If there were no visa restrictions, people could have moved much easily. But because of visa restrictions, where you have to find a job in the same area as per the H1B rules, what happens many times is that people cannot change their careers and cannot change their geographical locations, and that makes people unable to grab on great opportunities sometimes. Fifth fear, I am personally aware of one case. I'm sure there are many, but I'm aware of one case where families break apart because of their visa conditions and restrictions. What happened in that particular case was that husband was working in California and the wife got a job in Portland, Oregon. Now, the husband could not leave his job to move to Portland because his company was not there in Portland, and the wife could not leave her Portland job because she also had a specialized job in semiconductor industry and then moved to California area in that particular region where this person was living. Consequently, they split up and they went through divorce, and that is a very painful situation to be in. The sixth fear is fear of lack of opportunities back home. No matter which country you are from, if you are in high-tech field, the quality and the quantity of jobs that you can get in the US are difficult to get in many other countries. It's not that it is not possible. For example, in Ireland you have Facebook and Google, both if I'm not mistaken, and then you can get equally good jobs there as well. But no matter which country you are from, the best and the meatiest opportunities are actually available in the US. Now, because of these things which are out of your control, in particular your visa situation is not in your control, what happens many times is that you might have a great job here, but there is no job that comes any close to the quality of job that you have here. Seventh fear that many Desis in the US have is fear of their inability to adjust to new lifestyle back home. What happens many times is that once you go back, you have to adjust to the travel routine again. You have to go through buses or through traffic. Then maybe you have to adjust your children for new education system all over again, where they have to learn new languages that they didn't have to learn while they were in the US. And overall, the lifestyle that you were used to has to go through some major changes, and that can be difficult for some families. Eighth fear that people in the US often have is fear of safety while they are in the US. Let's be real, okay? No country is 100% safe, but given the nature of laws in particular related to weapons, US is a very liberal country. And no wonder why we have many mass shootings all over the country all the time. Every year thousands of people get killed, and that invokes fear in many people. At all times you have to be very careful what area you are at, what you are doing, what time you are at there. You have to be aware of all those things. While in other countries maybe you might fear getting robbed, but the fact that somebody else might have a weapon that might actually take your life away is a scary thought. The ninth fear that had actually come true for my friend Vivek's family is your concerns and worries about the health and well-being of family back home. If a family member suddenly gets sick, and in the unfortunate event where they pass away, it takes 24 hours to even get there. That is discounting the fact that you must have a flight reservation available for that very day. Oftentimes it takes a few days to get there because you might not get your preferred flight and there could be other issues. Now, what happened in my friend's case is that his wife's father passed away and she could not go and see her father for one last time. And such a situation is very heartbreaking. The 10th fear, which has come true for many people, thousands and thousands of people, is when their children are aged out in the green card process. See, what happens is that when you are in the US and if you apply for your green card, if your birth of country in particular is India, what happens is that the green card backlog is huge. So what is likely to happen, and that has already happened with many people, is that if the parents' green card is in the process and children do not get their green card in time and they turn 21 years of age, they no longer qualify to be in the same queue with their parents. They have to go and get their own visa. they are no longer considered dependents on their parents. And those very children have to go back, get a new visa stamp again, and come back and then start their whole journey all over again. And in most cases, these children have grown up in the US. They were maybe 2, 3, 4 years old, and here they have been for many, many years. So in their mind, they belong here, and still they have to go through that adjustment of their visa and passport and all those things. And that can create many issues, because in case the child does not get a visa to come back and the parents are not likely to get a job back, that can actually separate parents from children, and then they'll have to make tough calls regarding their careers and lives. The purpose of this video was not to scare anybody, but to present facts on the ground. See, some of these fears had come out to be true for me, for my friends, and for some other people that I have known. None of these are imaginary fears, and these fears genuinely come true for many, many people. I'm sure some of these fears had come true for you as well. The point is that the preparation in mindset is a very important tool. What happens many times is that if you're not even mentally prepared, and if you encounter unexpected, unpleasant situations, then it becomes much harder, much more difficult to handle those situations. But if you're mentally prepared that these things can go wrong and these are the worst fears that people have, at least you can mentally prepare yourself so that you can make plans B and C. So I hope that helps. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind, and God bless America.